Welcome back, everyone, to Easing the Reader, a Wheel of Time discussion podcast where we reread the Wheel of Time, or I, from this point on, we just read. I don't reread.
Well, I'm rereading and you're reading the first
exactly.
time. Yeah.
And we're reading The Dragon Reborn.
Yes.
I am Chris Mary Hultman, and with me I have David Green.
Hello, how's it going? Fun factoid, on my Xbox, so if anyone has an Xbox, they want to add me as a friend on it. For a very, very long time, since Xbox Live started, actually, my gamer tag is Dave Reborn.
Oh.
I've had that since 2003, I think, maybe.
I used to use when we would play Blood and Duke Nukem against each other, and even I think we play Unreal Tournament
in 1989.
In 1989, I used to go by the name Frankenchrist.
Very nice.
Which was stolen from the Dead Kennedys, if people know their punk rock history.
That's right. There you go. So that's got nothing to do with the Wheel of Time, but thanks for that.
Well, neither did yours. Did you? By the way, well, yes, you were, but that was. But let me tell you, wasn't there? Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't there a Wheel of Time game?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like a Hexen clone, right? It's more like Hexen than anything else. It has like a magic system, and obviously Hexen and Heretic had like magical weapons and stuff. But you're playing like an Aes Sedai. It's set, I think, from memory. I've not played it for a very, very long time, but from memory, I think it's set shortly. It's set between New Spring and Eye of the World, I think. And yeah, you play as an Aes Sedai, and it's like a first-person shooter, but very heavy on puzzles, and you use, like, instead of using like guns and whatever, you use like weaves.
Sounds like I played. Speaking of 1989, I played, I think, on the Atari, or if it was an Amiga, can't remember. I played a game called Ishtar, which was very simple. It was a horrible game because it was so choppy.
Yeah, but that's what they were in those days, weren't they? But yeah, you can get. I think you can get. Obviously, you can get Wheel of Time, the Wheel of Time game as an emulator, and run it and see what you think.
They probably have it on Steam, don't you think? Because they have like all those like Redneck Rampage and stuff like that on Steam.
Maybe. Someone will know, obviously.
I think coming to a Twitch stream soon.
A Twitch stream of it, yeah.
David Reborn plays.
Dave Reborn, not David.
Dave Reborn. Okay, Dave Reborn plays.
It's only Dave Reborn on Xbox. It's not that on anything. I don't have Twitch, so I don't. Well, no, I do have Twitch because it was integrated into Xbox and I set it up one time. So I'm Dave Reborn there as well, I think.
Yeah, you should do that. That should be a thing you should do. You should play it and stream it live.
Stream the Wheel of Time game on my laptop. That's it. That's all I do. Play it all the time. I think it's it was quite good for the time. Someone did a replay of it. One of the other content creators in the Wheel of Time community. Who was it? It might have been John. Was it John?
We'll have to ask him when he's on next.
Yeah, we'll ask him next time he's on. It might have been Daniel Green as well. Well, yeah, someone did a replay of it anyway, and was talking about it and everything and all that. And it was Nabliss, I think it was, on Nabliss. I think it was him. But anyway, yeah, it's been done before, unfortunately. But that's the way, isn't it? Everything that we do has been done before. Much like the Wheel of Time, it's all been done before. It's all circular, and we've treading old ground over and over again. Well, that is Easing the Reader in a nutshell.
Yes. Although there is news.
There's lots of news. And we're not too far away from when it actually happened for once. Because like the last episode was actually called "It Always Happens" because we talked about it. We recorded on the Monday, and we're like, something will happen because it always does, and it did. And by the time it was edited and it was out, the news was out already. So it was like, well, we've got a long time to wait to talk about it. But then since in the last, it's been 3 weeks since we recorded, really. So it's in the last 3 weeks, loads of stuff has happened, which is great because we can talk about it.
Yeah, and because, as I was saying before we started recording, I found that these chapters that we're going into now have very little content to actually talk about,
Yeah,
except for a return, which I was very happy about.
you're very excited about. Yeah, the Matt chapters at this stage of the book just really, really save this book in general until like around this point where it's like Robert Jordan's like, there is a plot, but we need to get to it. So yeah, but yeah, so lots of things to talk about that are not Dragon Reborn related, pretty much this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of them was that there was a poster. A poster came out. I mean, I'll say this. I was talking about the. I think when we had, when we had John on last, we were talking about. I was talking about how little there was out in the world about the Wheel of Time and the show coming. I mean, people know of it, but people who are not diehard Wheel of Time fans, just maybe general fantasy fans and stuff like that, like might have heard rumors, but like there's no news. There was no news about it. And
Yeah,
all of a sudden, this just past week, it's just exploded. My phone that obviously gives me notifications through Google about like stuff
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
was starting to say. Now there was one where it's like how true an adaptation will Amazon's Wheel of Time be?
Yeah,
And
I got that one too. Yeah, I
it
got
was a
that one.
picture of Rosamund Pike holding a book,
Yeah,
which
that's when
was
they announced it. Yeah.
obviously not Eye of the World that she was holding because they just like photoshopped it in.
No, it was Eye of the World. It was when she was announced as part of the cast. That was the picture that they used.
Really? Because it looked,
Yeah.
the picture that I saw did not look like she was actually
She's
holding
kind
the
of like
real book.
in a white room or something. Is she
Yeah.
like yeah, that's the one. It was like that was the announcement photo that they did when they cast her way back in 2006 or whenever it was when this thing was first announced. No, yeah, that was an official Amazon photograph. So yeah, that was it. Yeah, but yeah, no, there's been a lot. I've been getting a lot of that recently. And obviously, it was Comic Con at home, so it was the
Yeah.
first time where anything that they've kind of talked about it has gone to like a wider audience or publications that would cover it and all that kind of stuff. So like you got a lot of stuff from like Collider and IGN and all these kind of people that were watching it. But yeah, it is. I keep getting lots of stuff about the Lord of the Rings TV show as well, which is, but like people that are saying that like they're being secretive about Wheel of Time. We're getting updates from like Rafe and Sarah Nakamura, and like we're getting these little snippets of stuff. There's been nothing about the Lord of
No.
the Rings TV show, right?
Do,
Absolutely nothing, except for rumors. And every time that a rumor comes out, like from the One Ring.net, which obviously have an amazing track record, so pretty much anything that they say will be almost, you can pretty much bank it. There's all these articles and these like uh I keep getting like links to like YouTube channels for these like really angry uh people that are like, I don't want any woke stuff, woke nonsense in Lord of the Rings, and because like one of the rumors now at the minute is that because Lenny Henry or Sir Lenny Henry has been cast in the show. He was cast a while back, and the rumor is that he's playing a Harfoot, which is like something that hobbits evolved out of.
yeah.
And like I read that and I was like, all right, fair enough, because I'm well up on Lord of the Rings lore, right? And I saw some videos of people saying that like it's ridiculous and it's woke and all this kind of stuff. Because like hobbits weren't around in the Second Age, and I was like, well, actually, Harfoots were. They were mentioned, and they're also Tolkien also said they were. I think it's. I'm going to say darker skin, but I think he
Yeah.
actually used browner skin. I think he actually used as the word his terminology. So it's in the text that it's there, and it's it's part of, because there were three different sort of ancestors of hobbits that the hobbits of the Shire evolved out of.
What is it? That's an interesting part about like, I mean, and I've brought it up before when we were talking about the Earthsea TV show and how they were like black,
Yeah,
the actors, and I mean that's not. And we were talking about from the innkeeper from the Dusty Wheel. We were talking about like Well, I was talking about, and he did agree to my point that
No, I just always laugh how you just always call him the innkeeper, like it's like he doesn't have an actual name. It's like
no, that's just how I refer to him. I wish John had a title too.
He's called What Up. That's his name.
That's
So you don't have to use John anymore if you don't want to. Just call him What Up if you want.
But anyway, it's just like when we read fantasy, that's how we're like most people are ingrained. It's white people because it's always
Oh
been
yeah, definitely.
people.
Yeah. A lot of it is from the covers, right? Because they make the covers look like what the historic target market was, which was white teenage boys, right? So, but yeah, that's what it is. But I mean, even still, like I think it's just funny that when there is evidence for what the TV shows are or what the showrunners are doing, and then like you get the fanboys that are like, no, this is woke, this is this,
Yeah,
and this is
yeah, I know.
no, it's actually there, it's in the thing, right? And but yeah, I mean, it's you can't think that Lenny Henry is going to have a huge role in it anyway.
No.
I think it's just going to be like one of those kind of things. But yeah, so that's why I'm getting a lot of it at the minute. I'm getting a lot of notifications about angry Lord of the Rings fans and stuff, really positive stuff about Wheel of Time. Like,
Yeah.
Wheel of Time's coming in, Wheel of Time's coming in. So like, yeah, so it's quite funny because.
But I think the juxtaposition of that must be that we've seen a lot of Lord of the Rings things, movies. We've seen movies already in different times, and this is going to be the first time we see a Wheel of Time. And I mean, I think it was the same with Shannara and Earthsea when they were in production, and people were excited about that because it was the first time we're going to see it. Was the same with the Dragonlance. People are excited to see something that they've read when they were kids come to life, and then they criticize it really harshly after the fact.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you can be wise to kind of looking at some of the signs, right? Because like I think with Wheel of Time, and it's the same with the Lord of the Rings TV show, the pedigree behind the camera and the pedigree in front of the camera and the money and the budgets that they're spending on it from the studios that are attached to it, i.e. Amazon, who've got just like enough money to send their owner to space for 2 hours and back, right? It's not going to be bad because of like the reason Shannara was bad was because it was just under budget. There wasn't enough budget. It was cheap, and the cheapness went through the whole thing. Right, there's only probably like one or two like quality actors in the whole thing, and there wasn't that quality. Like you can't say that about Wheel of Time or Amazon. It's just the quality speaks for itself. When you look through like the IMDb listings of all the people attached to it, the money, like the budget of the first season of Wheel of Time is going to be comparable, if not a little bit more than the last season of Game of Thrones, which was expensive, right? The only reason it's going to be bad, if it is bad, is because of the writing or they've made choices that don't work, right? And that's a possibility. But it's not going to be bad like because Shannara, because it was cheap from the start.
No.
You can kind of look at that, and you can kind of look at these things that are coming out. When you get a property that you love is being like Foundation being picked up by Apple, it's going to look good. It's going to have a lot of care behind the character and all this, behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. So it's not going to suffer like the Dresden Files TV show, which was.
But I see, I like the Dresden TV.
You like that though, yeah. Well, you're a weirdo.
No, but I mean, you have to look at. I mean, now this isn't a Dresden podcast, and maybe we'll do one in the future where we go through every single Dresden book.
The Dresden cast.
Yes, but I mean, I think with the Dresden Files, I mean, I think it suffered from budget issues.
Yeah.
And I think it suffered a little bit from writing because I think a lot of the times the people who were involved in the Dresden production weren't familiar with the property. But I think they did what they could with what they had and to make it as believable as possible in our world.
Did you love Paul Blackthorne as Dresden?
I love Paul Blackthorne in anything.
Paul Blackthorne, yeah, you want him in Wheel of Time, don't you?
Yeah. I want him to play. He's going to play who he would be a great. No, we were talking about. You had somebody in mind.
I did, yeah. I can't remember now. I think it was Tal Manners, I think it was. Who was in the book yet. I think that's who it was. I think that's who I thought it was. I think that's the one my mind goes to again straight away. So it was. So let's start talking about all the stuff that's happened, because obviously there was stuff that has happened about the TV show, and there was stuff that's happened
outside.
Is on the face of it is nothing to do with the TV show, but I think it is very much to do about the TV show.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, I mean, the first thing after we stopped recording, or after we released the last episode, there was a video that showed the new kind of like logo.
The lovely logo, yeah, very Game of Thrones, very Witcher.
Yeah.
Almost the same kind of font, same style, especially The Witcher, which makes sense. Like, I've seen people online kind of saying, "Oh, it's not the ancient sign of like, this is a different kind of thing. It's a serpent thing as well." But it's like, they want to keep it simple. They want to keep it so you see it and just identify. You see it straight away. That was one of the criticisms of The Witcher one, was how like it evolved with each episode until it got to the actual thing at the last episode, and that was like another one of the weird decisions that they made with the Witcher adaptation. But it's one of those things where you just want people to say, look at it and go, yeah, this is the same wheelhouse as Game of Thrones and The Witcher, and it's Wheel of Time. We see that we see it straight away. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I have no issue with it. I think Witcher is a difficult property to discuss because, I mean, obviously it's a Polish book from the beginning. So the original, there's so many different horrible covers. So you don't really know what the aesthetic of The Witcher actually is unless you go into the video games.
And I think they wanted to pull away from the video games in some regards, because obviously the video games are set after the books, and with if you've read the books, or if you're the author of the books, you'd say there's a fairly definitive ending to the books. Right? So I think they kind of wanted to, although they did liberally borrow some stuff from the video games as well, like the look of Geralt in particular is way more from the video games than it is from how it's in the books.
What else? What other news? We had a poster. Did we have any other videos that came out?
No other videos. And so the video kind of was like confirmed that it was 2021. And then before the poster, then they gave us a lovely little photo of the clapperboard for the first day of filming for season 2. So season 2 has officially started filming. They're all back in Prague, doing what they're doing, filming. Drinking beers, lots of drinking beer going on by the looks of things as well. It's like we were in a heat wave in Europe at the moment, so it was it's just ended now though. But I think they're enjoying themselves back together again, having a few beers. The picture of the clapperboard, obviously it was on set, so there was lots of people zooming into the background, all the blurred stuff. It looked like it was Tar Valon to me as well. I saw a few different theories on it, but it looked kind of Tar Valon-ish to me from what we've seen set photos of Tar Valon. So, which would make sense from what the story is going on at the start of the Great Hunt as well. You're gonna have a lot of Tar Valon stuff there, I think, as well. Then we got the poster, but in between that, there was something else. So we'll look at the poster first, and then we'll talk about the other thing.
Absolutely.
Do you want to bring? We got it here. If you want to bring it,
I'll bring it up. Bring it up. Do you see it?
I do see it. It's lovely, and a little bit of Swedish there. Oh, photon.
Yeah, photons. That's
what it is. So there it is. So I mean, what do you think of it? What do you think?
I like it. It is very. I mean, if you want to look at, because we deal with covers a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, book covers, and I mean, this is definitely in keeping with where we see a lot of fantasy book covers going. The back of somebody with a flowing cape, is very. I mean, you can just look at our two friends, Abigail Linhart and H.L. Tinsley, with their books.
Yeah, I'm saying lots of fancy ones. So I mean, it shows fancy. It's got the biggest star of the show on the front cover, front and center, Rosamund Pike.
Paul Blackthorne, I thought you were going to say, but
Blackthorne, yeah. It's a waygate by the looks of it as well. So it's like kind of like, she's looking over shoulders if she's saying, "Are you going to come with me on a journey?" kind of thing. November 2021. What I liked about it as well is obviously you have and we can talk about this a little bit because in the bottom left, it looks like, for me, what is the effect of the weaves.
Yeah.
It's very similar to our background for Easing the Reader as well, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that I liked most about it was how the clouds in the background are split down the middle, like it's doing the ancient symbol of the Aes Sedai, which is like the yin yang symbol, right? I really like that. It's a really nice detail. And I saw like a wider version of this that they used for like the Twitter cover photo, and it goes beyond, so it goes like a bit wider, and you can see it goes right across the whole kind of skyline.
Okay.
That was very nice detail.
Certainly. No, I like it. It's a good poster. It's intriguing enough, and I think, and we were talking about it earlier in an earlier podcast about how to attract, because I think what Wheel of Time really has to do, or what Amazon has to do, is first and foremost attract the people who read Wheel of Time when they were younger, and then kind of left the property because they go to another fantasy series.
Yeah.
Not people who reread it so and so many times.
Yeah.
But I mean that I think is where they have to, because they're going to see it and they know all the things, and they listen to this podcast, and they listen to other podcasts. Maybe, I don't know, but at least they listen to this one.
They just listen to this one. That's it. They don't listen to anyone else.
No. But you need to attract those people that like, yeah, I do. I read the first couple of Wheel of Time books, so I'll give this a shot. Just like our partner in crime, Derek, who doesn't like them, but I'm pretty sure that he'd see the show.
He will. One of the things as well is what we need to try and get across is that this isn't going to be a cheap thing. It's going to be more in line with the quality, and that's why with the new symbol that they've got, and the font is very like Witcher and Game of Thrones, which were very expensive shows and they look good. Is that they want to kind of say, look, this is going to be like those shows, right? It's going to have the same kind of quality of like how it looks, not as if like quality, because some people obviously don't like, especially the ending of Game of Thrones. Some people don't like The Witcher. But the thing with The Witcher, the thing that the people didn't like about The Witcher was how the structure of the series, which is a valid criticism, I think, and it wasn't like the product again. It wasn't because anything to do with the production value or anything like that. It was choices that they made in the writers' room, like with the 3 different timelines going on, and unless you were like literally listening to every single word spoken or had some kind of like knowledge of it going into it, you just were like, by the 4th episode, you were like, oh, so none of them have met yet. And it's just, and that was kind of like, it was a bold kind of choice, and that was one of the things that kind of, and I think even the showrunner has kind of said like it may have backfired a little bit, because I think most people that are into that show will say that like it gets a lot better as it goes on, and it's a bit uneven at the start, but production value, it's strong, it's not cheap, and I think that's what they're trying to go for with this, for people that are coming in, because that is one of the stigma with fantasy shows, is that it's cheap always, and they look terrible, and they don't sound great.
I would probably say one of the other criticisms is often that the acting is off, because I mean, I saw that one, is it called Shadow and Bone?
Shadow and Bone, yeah. I've not watched that one.
On Netflix, which is, I mean, not a cheap looking show per se, but I found the acting to be horrible in it.
Right. Okay. I've not watched it yet. I've not seen anything really about it.
I've seen people kind of liked it and didn't like it. I mean, for different reasons, I think. But I found that.
I think that's one of the things as well why they put Rosamund Pike on there, because obviously she's the biggest star, and obviously she's a great actress. A little bit surprised they didn't put a name on it actually as well.
Yeah.
But I do like the simplicity of the poster as well, just to kind of keep it as it is. So yeah, that's it there. So
it's cool.
Yeah,
I'm interested. I don't know. Maybe we should ask John or the innkeeper. What up, or the innkeeper? How much of the prop? I mean, how much they've looked at, and I'm pretty sure that maybe they haven't, but like the Dynamite comics, how much because obviously Amazon and Dynamite have a working relationship, because
Yeah,
Dynamite put out The Boys.
they did, yeah. Well, the weaves are very similar to what was in the Either World New Spring graphic novel.
Mm.
The way it's almost, but then Robert Jordan was involved in one of those, if not both of them. So I think that is pretty much how he envisioned it. So I think that's why they kind of just, I don't know. Maybe they have got some kind of thing. You can take that down there. We've stared at it longly for more than enough. Let's bring our horrible faces back. So yes, that's that. So I think it's kind of all ramping up very much so. Rafe Judkins also said there's going to be a trailer before the end of summer, which who knows what that means? It could be the end of summer is like 27th of September or something. So it's somewhere between now and then.
Well, if it's in the States, I think you usually say that summer goes well into September. Where here in Sweden, it's obvious it's almost done.
Yeah, we'd be the same. We'd be like end of August 31st is the end of September, right?
Something like that.
But yeah, I think it's like I think again the Dusty Wheel have a countdown going. I think they went. It's either 22nd of September or 27th that they said at the end of the summer, right? So it'll be somewhere around then. But like if it's out in November, like Amazon generally like to put the first teaser out around 3 months before it comes out. So I think September is pretty reasonable to expect it. So
How
there was
about
the other thing that happened in between all this.
yes, the one that is maybe the oddest one, or
It's pretty hard, yeah.
so here, why don't you tell us about
So
movies?
yeah, so Amazon and Sony are making the TV show, right?
Yeah.
But the rights are still owned by a company called who were called Red Eagle, and they changed the name to iWatt. And I think they've changed the name to Age of Legends Productions now. They still own the rights.
So, but do they own the rights to everything? Like, I mean, we talked about the video game. We talked, and there's been role-playing games, and there's been like I remember seeing a CD with music from
they
Wheel of
didn't
Time.
own it. They didn't own it back then. They bought the rights in the mid 2000s, right?
Okay.
In time around then, and then like so, all the graphic novels and stuff that have come out have been through them. Okay, and there was going to be another video game which never quite panned out. The Winter Dragon is they're doing because I think it was like they were about to lose the rights because they hadn't done something, so they had to make something to keep it. I think. So what they've done is they sold a timeline deal to Amazon and Sony, right?
Yeah.
And that is basically the timeline of the books. So they can do anything that is within the timeline of the books. So New Spring to A Memory of Light, and anything that's mentioned in the book. So if there's any kind of flashbacks to in the past, if they want to include that, they can, right? But that's literally what they have. It's a timeline for that. They own the rights for everything else. Okay. So what they did was it was just after the logo had been revealed when people started talking about Wheel of Time. So obviously as well, this company would be aware of what the advertise the promotional schedule is.
Yeah, obviously.
So they would be like, right, it's ramping up now, probably. So what they did is they announced a trilogy of movies set in the Age of Legends, which on the face of it sounds great.
Mm.
Right? It's a great. There's 3 big events that happen in the Age of Legends that we know about. The finding of the Dark One, the Drill and Boar. Then you can have the actual battle between the good people and the bad people, and then you have the strike at Shao Ghul, where it's the loose Perrin and all them that go to seal the ball. You can make that could be the 3 films, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds good. Well, there's a couple of weird things about it. They announced a writer. They didn't announce any studios, no partners or anything. It's just basically development studios that have got it. There's no distributor or anything like that. Okay, putting up the money for it. The other thing as well is you don't announce spin-offs for something until you know it's going to be. Until you know.
No,
Right?
Absolutely.
The timing on the face of it, the timing is wrong because I think Amazon are quite confident about it, and I'm kind of hearing things that like the first few episodes were a little bit uneven. The first season, gets better as it goes on. Apparently, this is what I'm hearing, and well, they're just kind of finding the feet, but they're way more confident in the second season, like with the scripts that they've got and everything, and that's reflective of the material as well. Like, you know, because AI in the world is tricky to.
Yeah, we've talked
about it, yeah.
Yeah,
And
people
because
can go back and listen to that again.
Yeah, and because they wanted to adapt the entire series and they want to introduce things earlier, it's a trickier one to do, right? But obviously, you know, Amazon and everyone is confident in it because they announced the second season before the first one's even aired. They probably already started work on the third season in terms of writing scripts, but we don't know that people like it. We don't know it's been a rating success, so you wouldn't really announce a spin-off until then, unless you're wanting to make Amazon and or Sony pay for it and buy the rights for it.
Oh, I think they're being sneaky.
Yes, because right on the face of it, you got a TV series that's based on the books, and then you got this thing called the Age of Legends, which are 3 films that are set thousands of years before what happens in the TV show, which it is. It's, you know, it's 3, 4, 5,000 years. It could be 3,500 years or whatever, right? Depends how far back they go. However, there are specific races that are in both the Age of Legends and there are characters that are in both, i.e. the Forsaken, Luciferin, the entire premise is the Dark One.
Yeah.
You know, and there's some things that do change enough, like Aes Sedai change enough, but the one power doesn't change. How they use it doesn't change, right? So say that you have these people that the TV show might come out, and you're up to the second season, and then the first film comes out, and you have people that may still discover it through a film, and then they could go and see it and see this, it's done in this way. Then they'll go and see the TV show and it's done a different way, and they'll be like, "Oh, the TV show is a cheap knockoff or whatever." Right? Okay. Well, so they're putting Amazon and Sony in a position where it's like there has to be some kind of consistency. So if they write this and take it and sell it to Netflix, which they could do, or Warner Brothers or Paramount or something like that, right?
Yeah, or just put it out in the movie theaters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You know, but basically they could go and take it and sell it to another studio who wouldn't have anything to do with Amazon, and they'd be like, "Yeah, we want to do this, we want to do this, whatever." It puts Amazon and Sony into a tricky position because they want to have consistency for their thing, and it was very, very telling that no one to do with the Wheel of Time TV show commented on this Age of Legends thing, except for the official Twitter thing. Basically, were like, "We're as surprised as everyone else," right? So I think it's a bit of shenanigans because I think if they were serious about it, they would have waited to see if it was a success, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that they haven't got any studios attached, it's just a writer attached. I think it's just kind of like looking like Amazon and Sony, you give us some money for this, for this, what we're doing, make it or don't, we don't care, but just give us some money for it.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise, the rights are going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, no, that's.
But the thing is, like, would I like to see them get made? Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would love to see. I'd love to see Age of Legends movies, or you know, a TV show in the Age of Legends or whatever. I'd love to see it, but I want to see it done correctly. I'd rather see it done by the same people that are going to do the TV show for consistency and everything like that. Like, I don't want to see flashbacks to Luciferin in the TV show and he's someone else in the movies. You know, I don't want to see.
It's Billy Zane.
It's Billy Zane in the movies. Yeah, they just change it to Billy Zane in the movies. I don't want to see like Aes Sedai using completely different. I don't want to see the power being used differently in the two different things. I don't, you know what I mean? And I think like, you know, who Red Eagle Entertainment or whatever they're called now realized this, and I think they're just trying to put. And they probably looked at like all this thing about like Amazon have spent $1 billion on the Lord of the Rings to get the rights and the budget for the TV show and all this kind of stuff. And they're kind of like, and the fact that they're sending Jeff Bezos into space and whatever like that. They got loads of money, right? They're going to make it possible for them, and just to get a few hundred million off them or whatever it is.
They should.
And I think that's what they're probably.
They should offer it to Branson just to screw with
do you want to do it, Virgin Media? Take it into space with you. But no, I think that's what it is. I think, have they got designs to actually make something, actually make the films? Maybe, but I think it's one of those where it's like, if they can make some money out of it by selling the rights to someone, hopefully Amazon or whatever, and then that's what I think that's what they're doing.
We'll see. We'll have to follow the development. I mean, the thing is that even if they do make the movies, and as you said, I think there is a strong possibility that a lot of people would see the movies first before they see the show.
Yeah.
Because obviously Amazon Prime is as Amazon Prime is. It's not a network channel, and in the States, I mean, for us, it's different who live in Europe.
Yeah.
But in the States, network TV is still a very big deal.
Yeah.
And
you get people that don't watch TV series as well, but watch films, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They'll think, oh yeah, there's a TV series about this. I'll go and check it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's a long way off as well, which is the thing as well. It's like the thing hasn't even been written yet. They've just announced it with a writer attached to it, which is like very, very early doors. So it's like that's another thing that's like kind of set up a little like warning, like a red flag to me. It's like, this is something that is at the very, very start of the development process. So that's why I think there's kind of shenanigans going on with it.
Shenanigans.
Yeah.
Well, should we talk a little bit about the
Dragon Reborn shenanigans?
Well, obviously, these chapters that we're talking about, Behind the Lock, Teleron, I can't say it. Teleron Riyadh. Even though I've heard it said so many times, because they say it over and over.
Teleron Riyadh.
Teleron Riyadh. That's a chapter.
Arran is an Irish word. There's the Aran Islands that are in Galway that are quite famous. You may have heard of them.
Yeah. And then it's A Way Out, A Trap to Spring, The First Toss, The Woman of Tanchico, which is actually kind of funny because The First Toss ends with Matt coming to The Woman of Tanchico, and then it's just like the next chapter, The Woman of Tanchico.
Yeah. She gets her own little chapter. Why not? Why?
Yeah, no. I just thought that the funny thing was that the last sentence of the chapter before was The Woman of Tanchico, and then that's the name of the title of it.
Yeah.
The first chip within, and then the win within the weave, and we could kind of say that these are split up into the girls again, Matt on what I would say would probably be the closest thing to almost a sword and sorcery adventure.
Yeah.
And then Perrin.
Perrin.
And you notice how I said that in the end. And Perrin.
You don't like Perrin, do you? You don't like him?
No, I don't care for him. No, I don't.
No.
Not a big fan.
Yeah. You just don't like his. You don't like the cut of his jib, do you?
I don't like his eyes.
You don't like his eyes. You don't like his golden eyes.
I don't like his wolf-like nature.
His wolf-like nature. His shaggy hair.
Wolf with Jack Nicholson was a horrible movie, and it has marred everything that has to do with wolves.
Do you not like how he's always aware of how big he is and how he needs to be gentle when he's walking past people? You don't like that about him, do you?
Jack Nicholson or Perrin?
No, Jack Nicholson doesn't care about that.
No.
He doesn't care about being gentle. Yeah, so Behind the Lock, basically they find what is in this lock story. So there's a bit of weirdness going on. So they're following the woman in white, who is your mate, who you like a lot, and then they see Elsie, who has disappeared, and then they come across a locked room, which Nynaeve gets angry and breaks the chains, and behind. There's 13 bags of all the Black Ajar people that ran away with loads of things going. This is a trap.
But is it when they were breaking the lock, right? They used the one power. Yeah. But did I understand correctly that like they create kind of like a
She uses a pry bar, yeah.
Yeah, she materialize pry bar materializes, and that's how she does
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
actually interesting because that's like the first time you really see anybody actually
yeah.
conjure something, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And like your mate Celine's knocking around in this, which you love as
I
well.
love it. I just wish she had
Yeah.
been more behind the lock when they opened the
She
door.
was just there. She was just there. Yeah.
Yeah,
This is the thing. Like I know, with this bit, like obviously Robert Jordan is trying to like make us know that this is a trap, right? Like
yeah,
because every single thing, it's like every single person that's got the stuff is left behind has got something to do with air in it, right?
yeah,
Like every single person, right? And it's like they're like, and Neve says it as well. She's like, it's bait or it's tramp, and it's meant to be obvious, right?
yeah,
But it reminds me of like remember Minority Report
yeah,
where like they've never had to really deal with a crime before or anything like that. And then there's that bit where like they tried to get Tom Cruise to murder the guy. It's got all like pictures of his son everywhere on his bed and all this kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And then Colin Farrell comes up later on and like he's like, this is an orgy of evidence. It just doesn't happen like in reality or all this kind of stuff. That's what this reminds me of. It's just like because obviously, yeah, it's obviously, and they know it's obviously a trap, but like the Black Jar are kind of like, how much is too much? How subtle do we go here? Right? And someone's just gone, just don't care. But it's fine. Just go for it. Yeah.
Put some more in there, and then
Put a
it'd be
drawing of Tear in there as well, like a few books about Tear,
yeah.
whatever. Um,
Well,
and then Egwene is saying like, I'm going to go into the world of dreams to find out
yeah.
some more about this.
But I think this was kind of fun because this was kind of like a pod on Fane kind of thing. Is like it's like very dastardly villains in this part. Because
Yeah,
Pat Fane, when he's hanging with his Trollocs that are like basically like walking idiots, and he's just like, I hate these guys. Why do I have to deal with them?
yeah, he does. He hates everything, Palan Fane, doesn't he?
Yeah. But I mean,
Well,
it felt like you say, it's very obvious, and it's like very, very like fantasy dastardly. It's
yeah,
like,
it is. Yeah, I kind of love it. I kind of love it. To be honest with you. So next chapter that's all that really happens in this chapter, and we go to Tel Riyadh. Um, there and we get a little bit of like the cockiness of Egwene starts coming through a little bit more. I think around now because she's kind of like, that doesn't seem so dangerous to me. It's like nothing. It's a quote thing you get from Game of Thrones. You know nothing, right? People are telling you it's dangerous, then believe that it's dangerous. Okay.
she goes into dreams, and she meets Perrin, his his eyes,
Yeah.
and the wolf.
And the wolf. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong here. Is the wolf there for real, or is it a shadow of a wolf? Because Perrin later talks about the wolf that has died,
Yeah.
that is following him. So is this wolf not actually there with Perrin? It's just like kind of like the shadow of the.
Right. Okay. So, um, okay. So it gets a little bit complicated, right? Because I think Robert Jordan had the idea, and he said it himself. He had the idea of Talan Riyadh very, very early on. And if you go back and reread like Eye of the World, you'll realize that all the kind of bits where he's the meat in the dark one and everything was in the
Yeah.
World of Dreams, right? And that like the visions that they were kind of having are all in the World of Dreams. And my voice has gone very husky all of a sudden. It's like it's dropped. It's like my voice is finally broken.
Yeah, you sound like Eartha Kitt.
It's broken a second time, which is concerning. But anyway, so yeah, so like it's always been there, but I think still at this point it's still kind of refining the kind of rules for it and how it works. But basically, wolves, when they dream, all wolves can go into the world of dreams, right? They can
Okay.
go. There's some people that can just do it naturally. There's some people that need to use terangrial. But then some creatures like wolves that can exist there, which is why Perrin can do it as well. So by that token, you'd think Elias can do it too. But it seems that when they die, they live in the dream as well.
So
right?
then that's I assumed correctly.
Yeah,
That
yes,
he's
they
like,
live in the dream. But they can also die in the dream, which, as you know, was one of the rules of Talon Riyadh, is that if you die in the dream, then you die in real life too.
that's
So
not
it's
good.
like it's one of the three constants, because like when you talk about like the portal stones and all these different realms of existence, there's always three constants in each one. There's a creator, a dark one, and the world of dreams in every single one of them, right? So it's like the third constant. So yeah, that's it.
Good to know.
Um,
Then
there's
she,
a lot that happens in this one. There's a lot of trippy stuff, isn't there? Because like
because she meets Rand,
Rand is Rand tries to kill her.
Yeah, and he's just like, it was kind of funny because he's just like hanging around smoking a pipe
Yeah,
by a fire, and then he goes off on her because he believes that she's a dark friend that wants to kill him.
He's like saying like you've come wearing other faces before and
Yeah.
whatever. It seems like Rand's having a really hard time. It seems, but it also
He's not
sounds
so
like
happy.
he's murdered a lot of people by the time. I mean, the last time we actually met him in the book, he murdered a bunch of people and left them sat like kneeling by a tree. And so he's and he conjures his little his one power sword, tries to kill her. And she discovers need as well. So she starts using need. Where do I need to be?
Yeah.
That's another thing of the world of dreams, is that need kind of supersedes everything else. So you have a strong enough need and you have a strong enough will, you can pretty much do anything. Okay. So she goes back and Sylvie's there and she's like, "Oh yeah, you've figured it out because you're in here." And
here is an interesting this was an interesting aspect, because when she talks to Sylvie, who drops a lot of knowledge, and she talks about Balsamon and that you should call him a fool because he kind of loses his power.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes I can use my knowledge of religion that I studied at uni when I studied to be a teacher, and that is actually like an old tradition, and you probably know this living in Ireland, that's why people put on masks for Halloween.
Yeah.
To make fun of the devil, because the devil hates being made a fool.
Yeah.
And I think not everybody knows that, but that's I thought that was kind of like a cool kind of callback to.
Well, Halloween was made in Ireland. We know all about it.
You'd like to think that, but I don't.
It was. It was. So who do you think Sylvie is anyway? Because obviously Sylvie knows a lot of stuff that's going on. Just like old crone hanging around.
No, I think that she's like the Oracle from the Matrix.
Right. Okay. Literally her.
I think that's her. Yes. No, but yeah, I think that she's. I think what I've kind of come to understand, that just like in the Matrix, there seems to be in the Wheel of Time characters that are like maybe constants, that know things, that are in tune, that maybe not everybody else is. And I'm thinking Sylvie is one of those, like, and she's not afraid to call Balsamon a fool because for some reason she knows that he can't like touch her.
Do you think she thinks she's good or evil or neither?
I think she's neither. I think she's just.
She wakes Egwene up by grabbing the ring and pulling it off, doesn't she? And it
like
hurts. Yeah, it's a good way of doing it, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Egwene is like the Calendar of the trap, and that's what it is. And she's like, "We'll go and spring it, and hopefully we won't get." That sounds like a good plan.
Very good plan. Very good plan. And then we get into the Matt chapters.
Yeah, because they're like, because Elaine's like, I really should tell my mum that if I'm going off somewhere again, just so there's not like an international incident or anything like this. That's the thing that you kind of think about. Like, it's not like another territory of the same place. This is like if Queen Elizabeth when she was like a princess, went to Germany to go to school and then went missing.
Yes, she's just like, I'm going to Spain now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to Spain and went missing for a little while.
Yeah,
Like that is like, so like wars have been fought over this kind of stuff. So that's like when you kind of like think of like, and I think he kind of underplays that a little bit, that aspect of it, because when you kind of read it, you kind of like, oh, what's the deal? But it's like when you put it in context, it's like, oh yeah, that would be a huge deal.
Yeah, no, and I think that is the trap that a lot of, and I'm going to call Jordan and the Wheel of Time still 80s fantasy, 80s high fantasy, because I think it has so much in common with the 80s high fantasy.
At the moment, it does. We're about to pass through all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, and that is what 80s high fantasy does a lot. It underplays the importance of things. And we talked about that before about like believability. I mean, just because Perrin in the Black Cauldron has a sword doesn't mean that he can all of a sudden use it.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So I mean, I think that is a trap that fantasy, and I think a lot of young fantasy authors or people who are starting to write fantasy also kind of fall into that trap because that's what they're maybe used to reading from when they're kids.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, and I think it's again like as a lot of writers when they're kind of starting off, it's like give just enough information to keep the kind of plot moving.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jordan's a descriptive writer anyway, but then as it goes on, he goes into the trap where he's like giving too much information about stuff that's like, whereas like before it could have been like just skim over this a little bit. It's one of those things that kind of like it's a fine balance to kind of go on to.
And we'll get there.
It depends where you're from as well. Because I think if like you say you're an American looking at the map, it might just look like the States. You know what I mean? Because whereas like as a European, when you look at it, it's like, oh yeah, that's just like Austria and Germany next to each other with Italy down here and Spain here. And there would be like, especially like kind of pre-industrial times, if like a princess went somewhere and then went missing, there probably would be a war about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Matt, they go into Matt, and this is a funny little chapter, isn't it? Like Matt's just like thinking about how pretty they all are.
Yeah, I know. He's just eyeing them up. He's very thirsty here
he's well aware that they want something, and he calls them out on it because like you're never normally this nice to me.
Yeah. So he is given a letter to give to Morghese.
Yeah.
And in exchange, he also gets a letter of permission from the Amyrlin so he can leave.
One of their letters, yeah, because that was one of their letters, wasn't it?
And then he says, "I shall do so."
He's like, "Give me some money."
Yeah.
That's all right. It's fine.
Well, he ends up getting some money anyway.
He does, yeah, he does. He's a good one at finding some money, isn't he? But again, the Matt reboot of his character continues apace at this point. It's just like,
as I said, he becomes very much more like of a sword and sorcery type of hero here. I mean, I'd probably say not a Conan type, but more of like a Fritz Lieber. A Fritz Lieber type of like the Gray Mauser or Farft.
Yeah, he's a very kind of like rogue hero type now. Like he's which like he always had that kind of facet to him, but from the mixture of that, we never really spent any time in his or we didn't spend any time in his head, and the stuff that he had going on with the dagger and all that kind of stuff. Is it that we never just saw this part of his personality, or it's that Jordan's kind of gone, right, I just need to do a little bit of work here to kind of get him to be a bit more likable. Because I think even when you think of him before he met the dagger, he wasn't quite this kind of playful. He kind of did have that kind of...
He was very solid.
Yeah. And now he's kind of just like very optimistic and very much like, this is a trap. They want something off me, but you know what? They're nice girls.
Then we get... Then Nynaeve tells the Amyrlin about their discoveries.
Yeah.
In the storeroom. And
another grey man. They find another
yes,
grey man dead in Sheriam's bed. Sheriam is the one that was around when it was the first one was found
yeah.
as well.
What is she
Yeah.
doing to the grey men?
What is she doing to them? Why are they turning up around her so much? I think is the more of the question.
Is this is where they're cleaning, scrubbing pots and pans, right? Or is that in the earlier chapter? I can't remember.
It is, yeah. So like they're all in the kitchen, aren't they? And the Amberlin comes in and starts like a kitchen inspection, and it's like
Yeah.
and like she's like staring everyone down and everything like that, and then like basically she's like says to Elaine like, "What did you say to me?" kind of thing, so everyone leaves the kitchen so she can get them alone, basically. But
Yeah.
she'll end up, Egwene again is thinking that she knows too much about what's going on, and she gets kind of caught in the ploy as well. So it's just Nynaeve, it's just her and Nynaeve. But like, yeah, the Amberlin says that Elsie was sent away about 10 days ago as well. So been Elsie knocking out. So there's a little bit of conspiracy shenanigans, mystery stuff going on in the White Tower at the minute.
Yeah. Well, the Amberlin lets them go on their expedition to Tyr and gives them some gold.
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, here you go. A sack of gold.
That's nice. And
Tack you over.
she also says that there's only 2 Angro that are more powerful than Calendar as well. We've seen one of them
Have we?
already. We saw it in the Great Hunt. Remember when Rand is with Selene and Hurin,
Yeah.
and they see that big thing buried that they're unearthing, and Rand goes a bit crazy.
He's always crazy.
But he was like really crazy. Do you remember? And he's like,
Yeah.
that cliff, and he's like, that's the thing. That's one of the ones that are more powerful than Calendar.
I do like the kitchen matron in this one though, who like beats them with a stick.
Yeah, but she's so submissive to the.
I know.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. There's a little bit of corporal punishment. Always works. And then we have.
Being a teacher, that's quite disturbing. Right?
What?
Being as you're a teacher, that's quite disturbing.
Yeah, that's true. My teacher when I was because I think when I started elementary school, which would have been like when I was 7, which is where you do it here in Sweden.
1934.
Just about, no. 83.
That's when I was born.
Yeah, that's when I started school.
That's born. Yeah, that's when I was born.
My teacher, she was because I went into in an English school. It was called like a home language school for English kids, for English speaking kids. And our teacher, her name was Janice Archer, and she was an old English teacher. And and the year before I started, they had abolished corporal punishment in Swedish schools, somewhere around there. And she hated that. But she would tell us what she would have done to us had she been allowed to.
Yeah.
So it's like if beating you was still legal, this is what I would do to you.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Well,
anyway,
okay.
Now we get into the Matt chapters for real, and I think we can they're really just basically one long chapter. They should have been, because they're very short.
Well, you always want to, as a writer, you always want to have the last line of a chapter and then start the next chapter with that line.
I think so. It's the best.
If you have that opportunity, you can't turn it down.
No, but these are fun. I like these because it gives a different view of the world that Robert Jordan has. I mean, because we've seen cities before, but this is the first time we actually see like the big city and kind of like the other side of it.
Yeah, like, even in a place like Tar Valon, which when you hear about it, you just think of it as like Aes Sedai. But even then, there's like a dock, and there's like sailors, and there's men playing dice, and there's like and there's grey men going around trying to kill Matt.
It's like I got a very Mos Eisley kind
Yeah,
of vibe from these, because what really happens is that Matt just like goes from like inn to inn, or tavern to tavern, and plays at dice,
yeah.
and he wins all the time, because this is, and I think we talked about this last time, that is apparently his like new power. He's lucky.
He's very lucky, and he hears dice rolling in his head, which is like we know something massive is about to happen, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's like a tavern power that is just like kind of in his, like it's become even more so. So yeah, I like how I like how he keeps on sending an Aya away to bring him more food, and
Yeah.
he's just stuffing it all up. He's just stealing all the food, and he's like, I'm gonna make it really obvious that I'm trying to leave.
Well, yeah. So I mean, if you look at the first chapters where he's like starts rolling dice, and then he
Yeah,
is distracted by both, I mean, Dark Friends and the Gray Man, who
yeah,
start following him. And this is where it becomes very, I mean, like the whole atmosphere, I think, is like almost directly lifted from a Fritz Lieber
yeah.
sword and sorcery book. Just like the atmosphere, you can feel it, you can like see it. I mean, anybody who's read a fantasy book knows what an inn looks like,
Yeah,
because it's like a staple of fantasy literature.
yeah. I like how also this chapter introduces Matt's new catchphrase, which he has for the rest of the series, which is "It's time to toss the dice." That's his new catchphrase. That's come up in this one. But I like how like even like his look tells him that like there's a grey man coming for him. Basically,
Yeah.
the look is saying like you're being followed by something that no one can really ever see. But the way that he kills him is just like pure luck as well. Just like
But
pulls
then,
on him, as he's falling, and just lands on his dagger basically.
yeah. And then that's, yeah, because we don't really find out that it's a Gray Man until
We don't
he's
know
killed him.
we don't know explicitly. It's just
No.
that like it's one of these things like we've seen two of them. Oh, we've seen one of them already been killed.
Yeah.
We saw one in the Great Hunt, but that was kind of glossed over. And then like literally the chapter before the
They
ambulance,
mentioned.
the Queen of the Aes Sedai has said that like there's one been found dead, and then Matt's just like always very not ordinary looking, so that we
Yeah.
know like, oh yeah, it's a grey man, like
Yeah,
because
because he actually says, I'd probably like miss him in a crowd.
yes, this grey man is very ordinary looking. I would miss this grey man. We all know what a grey man is, so yeah. So and so he decides that he needs just to go into an inn, and he just
Yeah.
picks at random the woman of Tanchico,
Chico.
which I always like the name. I love the name Tanchico in the Wheel of Time. It reminds me a little bit of like, oh man, I've lost the name of it in my head. There's a place in the Zelda series that always just reminds me of the same thing. So when I was a little bit younger, I used to kind of just like daydream that Zelda and the Wheel of Time were the same, taking place in the same place, right? Something like it's there as well.
It's an interesting daydream to have.
It is, isn't it?
Anyway, so he enters the tavern and he finds Tom Marilyn standing on.
He's back, baby.
He has returned finally.
He's back, baby. He's back almost exactly the same way that he was back in the second book.
No, but this
And this
time
is what
a
we're
lot.
talking about. Do you
He's
remember
drunk.
when? Yeah, do you remember when Rebecca was on from reading
Yeah.
past, and we were talking about how the problems of if you're going to put books 2 and 3 into season 2 of the TV show,
Yeah, they'd be
that's
the
all
same.
well and good, but if you do it as in like a straight adaptation where you have like Balmer at the halfway point of season 2 and then into the Dragon Reborn, you have the characters doing the exact same thing. So you've got the girls are going on this thing now to an obvious trap,
Yeah.
which they were doing in the second book. You've got Tom appearing in an inn, one of the characters just stumbling upon him in an inn, in almost the exact same place in both books as well, after being absent for a while. This is what we were talking about. There is problems here with the structure of it being too similar.
Yeah.
But Tom's back, baby. He's back. Your favorite Wheel of Time character is back again.
Well, my favorite Wheel of Time character is dead.
Ingtar.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is dead. Yeah.
So no.
Your second favorite character is back, baby.
He is, but he's drunk, and I mean, if anything, he's like more degenerate than he was the last time we saw him, because then he was kind of like happy because he was going to get married and stuff like that.
He was in love with a young lady.
Yeah, who got stabbed to death.
He did get stabbed to death. Matt wants 3 or 4 chickens. Sweet.
Yeah, and this is such a like an 80s like buddy cop moment where he's just like, oh, we'll order in 3 or 4 chickens. Anything for you, Tom?
Like, yeah. That's right.
It's a little cringeworthy. Of course, probably at that time it was not a classic staple. Or trope. That's probably right. New.
But like Tom has talked about all of his regrets as you do when you get drunk and you're a bit older. He's talking about Margay's. He's talking about Jenna, who we barely knew, and he starts talking about Moraine, regretting that Moraine is a nice die.
Yeah.
And then he starts going, you can get in trouble if you kill someone, and it's like, yeah, you mean the king of Carenhine who you killed in the last chapter. That was a ballsy move. That was a ballsy move,
right? Anyway, but Matt at least convinces Tom to go to Camelin with him. There's like the band's back together.
It's the game back together. They're like, come with us to Camelin, and Tom's like, no one's been following you. There are no footpads in Savalon, and so. That's kind of like there's something there, and that's like, I'll be on the first ship to Camelin even if it's sinking to get out.
Yes, and then we get to the next chapter, which is called The First Ship.
The first ship he found. Yeah, so it's like, it's just like he's loving the connections right now. Yeah. He's loving it.
And they leave on the first ship, and with some negotiating to get the captain's cabin. Mm-hmm. Tom says, I'll sing for you guys if you want.
Yeah.
Tell you stories. And then Dark Friends attack.
They do. They just come out of nowhere. They're so what do you think? Do you think that they don't want the letter to get to Camelin, or do you think they're after Matt?
I think they're after Matt.
You think they're after Matt?
Because he blew the horn. Because he's a horn blower.
He's the horn blower. All right. Yeah.
I think so. Okay. I would say so. But he escapes because obviously he's lucky. There's a lot of things that happen obviously we're kind of going through these chapters quickly, but there's a lot of things in these chapters that are like less important. There's like the whole negotiating about the cabin, or if they're going to get to go on the ship. There's a lot of like back and forth that feels like this is kind of unnecessary.
It did, like, it's good. Like, no, I don't know if it's unnecessary. I just think it's one of those things where it's like he's doing more work on developing the other characters, because in the first 2 books we spent so much time in like Rand's Head, and then the only other people we've really seen is Egwene, a little bit of Perrin, and we've not had any time really to spend with Matt. We've not really had any time to spend with Nynaeve in terms of like in her head or anything like that. So I think it's like all this kind of like back and forth that he's doing, and this like kind of like, this kind of stuff like negotiation. It's kind of like laying the ground rules for
and I'm not saying that it's unnecessary within the story, but it's like it's nothing that really moves the story forward for us to talk about.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
There's a lot of that stuff that happens here.
Yeah, because I think that's the thing as well with the Dragon Reborn, is that it's bare bones. It's a very bare bones plot.
Yeah. The one thing I was thinking about though is that isn't it the captain that comes off very, very racist? It's like how he hates like all other people.
Yeah. There is an undercurrent of that in a lot of people's point of views from where they're from and like how they react react to other people from other places, which again is probably the same. Like if you take Europe for an example,
Yeah,
like how even these days, but especially say 200 years ago, how people in Spain would have seen Scandinavians, like,
yeah.
whatever.
But I mean, it's just that it's so very, very blatant in this one compared to like how other interactions
Yeah,
in the book.
yeah. So before this chapter finishes, I like how like after they've killed all these people, and Tom enjoys killing people, as
Yeah,
we know, he likes killing people. So he's kind of like, maybe you should reconsider the price for our passage because we've just killed all these people. And it's like, oh, good point, fair point. And anyway, so
we end with Rand,
we check in with Rand for a little bit. Yeah.
and basically it's just him. He's sitting there playing his flute
Yeah.
by the fire, and then kind of like it's a little bit of. I mean, obviously he feels a little bit sorry for himself. He's afraid to dream, and then he about his reaction to seeing Egwene.
Yeah, like he's kind of thinking about like why he feels more concerned for a minute in the lane than he does for Egwene. He's on about all the weddings that he's been to
Yeah,
recently. And then and Celine has been visiting him in his dreams as well, saying that he must take Calendar. So now, I mean, it's taken a long time for like the kind of plot to come out in this book, but by chapter 32, I mean, there's obviously hints of it before, that Rand was going to tear to do something, but by chapter 32, it's like all signs are pointing to Calendar and Tear. There's something there. And that's where the convergence point of this book is going to be. But it's taken a long time to get there.
yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I mean. Like, you know, it's this one of the shortest Wheel of Time books, if not the shortest of the main books. But the plot is quite thin. There's a lot of stuff to kind of pad it out. When the plot is essentially there's a trap in Tear, and the characters are trying to get there.
Yeah. Then we get to the last chapter that we're going to talk about, which is within the weave, and that's Perrin.
He's back, baby.
He's back, baby.
He's
Still
back.
chasing Rand and with the Moraine land, loyal.
He's been gone for a while actually, because like we've not checked him for because the way
Yeah.
because the way that he structures the book with the kind of staying with a certain character for like 5 or 6 chapters at the start,
We
and now
haven't.
he's kind of done away with that.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to do that anymore. It's been a while since we've seen him, but he's back, baby.
Yeah. And it's basically, I think, because they've been traveling. This is like nothing is really interesting has happened. They arrive in Remen.
Remen. How did he say it in the?
I think they say Remen.
Remen. Yeah. I think that one seems all right. Yeah,
Do you accept that?
seems about right. Yeah, seems about right. Like he's thinking about the dream that he had of seeing Egwene. So he's thinking about the same dream. So that's good. That's a nice way of kind of Robert Jordan saying that, like, you know, how the timelines fit at the moment, where everyone is, like, you know, because it's like, because that was one of the things with A Great Hunt, but that's obviously because the portal stones and stuff. The time went a bit wonky. But he's kind of like tracking time a little bit better for us in this bit, because he's like, this is so they've had the same dream here, right? So this is where everyone is.
And they find an Ailman.
They do.
In a cage.
In a cage, yeah.
What's that all about?
Well, you know, what would you do with an Ailman? Well, you remember as well that like Perrin remembers that Min said about an Ailman in a cage would be a turning point of his life as well.
Yeah. And this isn't the first time that he isn't it? I think he says that, doesn't he? That this is not the first time he sees an Ailman in a cage.
No, because they met some in Great Hunt, didn't they, as well?
Yeah.
They met some there. And so this Lord Arben is a hunter for the Horn. He's talking about how he captured the Ailman, which that no one bleeds. Lan gives it very short shrift, doesn't he?
No. And here we also hear like the whole thing that Moraine and Lan have other names, and they have different paths. They have a past. that we don't hear a lot of so far.
Yeah,
But I mean,
not
it's
so,
hinted at,
yeah, that's right.
and that's nice. I mean, it's like we've talked about. I think we talked about that before. I think it was in the Eye of the World where it was
The world,
mentioned,
yeah.
and we
Fair
kind of
enough.
said like that's kind of like a Gandalf
It is, yeah,
thing.
yeah. It is. And then Perrin sees someone watching him who has a nose that is almost too large. Remember that sentence, Chris. This is
Because that's the name of the next chapter. A
this is
nose of a different size.
too large. No, this is the entry point for a very the character that people have very strong opinions about in this
Is her
series.
name Folly?
I,
Fail?
I'm I'm not going to give you any spoilers. Have you read on? Have you? Have you gone further?
No, no, yeah. I've read a
No.
little bit. I read a little bit of the
Okay.
different dance.
Okay, right. Well, yeah. Yeah.
We don't have to talk about that now.
Her name. Yeah. So her name is Fail or Failey or however it's going to be pronounced.
Yeah, I haven't listened to it yet, so I don't know.
Right, okay. Well, listening to it can be completely wrong because, like, apparently Moraine is going to be pronounced as Moiraine.
Okay.
That's what
Moira.
Yeah, that's how Rafe Judkins was pronouncing his name at Comic Con. So that's the way it's going to be, I think. So who knows how Fail? I always call it a Fail.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It's interesting because the narrators, the two, Michael Kramer and the woman, they obviously pronounce Moraine's name differently, because Michael Kramer says Moraine,
Yeah,
whereas the woman says Moraine.
Moraine.
No, it's just that Moraine.
I think it sounds like it's going to be Moiraine, so like Moira, but a little bit more. Which is funny because like Moira is the one of is an Irish way of saying Marie, and another way is Mary as well. So Mary or Moira. So yeah. So there you go. A little bit of another Irish connection there, which is quite a lot in the Wheel of Time. So that's what's interesting now at this point. I'm going to look at it in kind of like a writing kind of way. Is that there is 3 distinct flavors of fantasy going on with the 3 different storylines that we have now. If you discount Rand's thing that he's doing, it's not really a storyline so much. He's kind of like the MacGuffin of the story for one of those storylines. But you have like Perrin's one, which is very kind of is like a chase kind of.
Yeah, it's very it's very classic high fantasy.
Classic high fantasy, and it's much more in keeping with the previous 2 books, which were very kind of like road chase kind of things. But then you have Matt's one, which is kind of like rogue
sword and sorcery, I would say.
And then you have the girls, which is like kind of like cloak and dagger mystery.
It was almost like a detective story, but a spies.
Story,
well, don't they mention spies?
Yeah.
In one of them, so it's more of a spy.
Because she calls them, they call Black Ajar hunters as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like, kind of like that kind of thing. But there's 3, which is again, it's different for Wheel of Time so far because like you've had like because we only ever follow one person POV in most of the books, so you just have that one kind of style with like little bits of like subgenre coming in with Eye of the World had its little bits of horror and all that kind of stuff. But this one, there's like this. Each POV has its own distinct feel now, which I think the book would have been. I do enjoy this book. I think it has got structural problems. It's got problems where it's a little bit too similar to the Great Hunt, which I think is a superior book as well. Even though I think the ending of this book, I'm not going to give any spoilers, I think I enjoy the ending a little bit more in this one. But I think if he'd kind of split up the POVs earlier in the book, it would have been more enjoyable to kind of get that flavor earlier on. But that's the timeline issue where he kind of wants to keep the timeline together on this. He doesn't want it jumping around because it's all converging into this one event at the end of the book. So that's why Matt is missing for the first half of the book. That's why like Perrin disappears because he's traveling for a while. Like, and it's I suppose that's what happens when it has to. When you have some characters moving and you have some characters that are static for a while. I don't know if the thing is to try and keep
I've noticed that with my current fantasy work in progress is that the question I guess I have to ask myself is how important is it that when the POV changes, that it's at the same time as like things are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Because like if it's morning in the beginning of the chapter and I change point of view later in the chapter, does it still have to be morning for the other characters?
Yeah.
Is that
like
important?
it's funny because like in my one in Solitude Shadow, which you've not finished reading yet, so no spoilers. It's set over a certain amount of time, and there is multiple POVs, and I do have, but the way that I kind of got around it is that I have one POV which is static. There's not much movement where the character's going, but then the other two POVs are moving, so that I'm able to kind of like, I have the static POV, and then I have one of them that's moving, and then the next one that's moving, then back to the static one, where I can have some passage of time then. So it's not like this. So none of the characters disappear for all that long. Where it's like with this one, you've got two sets of the characters that are static, and one of them is actually just recovering in the bed for a few weeks, right? So that's where that kind of problem comes in with it, I think, which is it's unfortunate because I think that the beginning of the book does kind of, unfortunately, it's the Perrin chapters, those kind of drag. So that is, but you know, I think we're only in the last. I think we've got about 20 chapters left to go, and it's all.
Like that,
It's all good times.
It's all downhill from here. So not downhill as in it's smooth sailing. That's what I meant.
Smooth sailing from now on. Yeah, we're there, baby.
Because what we say, obviously, the English expression, "it's all downhill from here," is a negative thing, whereas in Swedish, it means that there's no obstacles. It just goes quickly. It's just an easy path.
I think most phrases in English are negative because we're so miserable.
Well, that's it for this edition of Easing the Reader, Dragon Reborn. We'll appreciate you all for listening, for tuning in, going in on YouTube, liking, commenting. I've seen that there's some comments, and I think it's funny that people didn't like the fact that I don't like loyal. Somebody had commented that and stuff like that. But it's fun, and keep them coming. Keep the comments coming. Don't forget to write us a review, follow us on Spotify, give us a star rating on Apple Podcasts if you can. We're all available everywhere.
Yeah, and tell all your friends about us. Get us to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well.
As we said before,
we were the first ones to have the weaves of the One Power looking like it does in our background, like it does on the poster. We were there first. So tell everyone about it.
Number one.
Yeah.
Anyway, for David Green, my name is Chris Mary Hultman. What do we say?
For the next turn of the wheel.